Hi, Mike McLaughlin here with Dana Dahlquist. We're going to do a little video on the hip slants, the inclination of the hips, and how they relate to what the shoulders are doing and the rotation of the torso in general. So here we got Dana. On the left here would be more of what you might call improper posture. His tailbone's a little too tucked, so he's got the hips a little too level. And maybe even the eyes kind of focused out too far out in front of the ball.
Yeah. And one of the things that is interesting, folks, is that a lot of these changes might feel very subtle and foreign, but in the long run, if you do this every single day that you practice and just kind of take note of this and take measure of it, things will start changing. Now, one of the big feels that I feel with this setup position is to try to feel that your belt is pointing at the ball. So that would be the picture on the right, Mike, correct? The one with the red.
Correct, yeah.
The one with the blue, the hips feel like a very much so more of a level feel, and my tailbone's more under. Okay, now notice how much more space also is created with the arms in relation to the body. So it actually feels like I have a lot more room when I do this with my pelvis. Very good. Yeah, very good. Perfect, perfect. Okay, and then the neck tilts, obviously, and the eye lines.
Yeah, again, the left would be the eyes are too far up, so focusing too far in front of the ball. On the right, Dana's eyes are more down because of the what the pelvis is doing. Pelvis is a little more inclined, so his eyes are going to be a little bit more down.
That's right.
Kind of letting his head hang, not really forcing it down, but just letting his head hang more down.
Good. And this is going to influence a lot into the backswing, what we get onto next.
So I have myself demonstrating kind of what Dana was doing with a little bit of an improper posture. I'm exaggerating it more. Very level hips. Obviously the eyes are up. And what that tends to lead to is to more of a flatter or more of a rotation of the torso and the hips, more level to the ground.
Boy, that's good right there.
That could be in your this month's Golf Digest for how to do it right. So since I haven't released any flex in my right knee, my hips have turned flat, which leads to my shoulders turning flat. So I have to lift the arms in order to try to create some descent on the downswing. It just leads to a lot of compensations compared to over here on the right, where my eyes are more down. Also my belt buckle's closer to facing the ball, like Dana was talking about. Doesn't mean that I'm really sticking my butt out or sticking my tailbone out where I would have an S posture or an arch my back. You can see the lower back kind of straightish, maybe a slight curve to it. So as I take the club back, I'm going to release some flex in my right knee, and that allows the hips to turn kind of on this slant. You can see the left going down, the right hip stretching up. So again, that right leg is releasing flex, adding pressure into the ground, and by doing that, now I can have the shoulders work kind of on this angle here. Left shoulder's going down, right shoulder's going up. Also notice how much easier it is for me to have the arms, kind of the upper arms, staying on the body, or the arms to be kind of working on an arc. They're not really lifting off my body. There really isn't any need to.
Mike, can we hold that right there?
Yeah.
That when the left arm is parallel to the ground. Can we go to left arm parallel to the ground on the other
Yeah.
side? So one of the things where, as a player, you want to feel athletic. Well, the picture on the left doesn't look as athletic. Okay, and people just say that. But reality is you're not feeling the ground when you're doing this because there's so much retention of flex in the knees and how the torso is working. He can't feel pressure into the ground. So one of the things that you look at the picture at the right, it's very evident that he is using the pressure of the ground kind of like a corkscrew. So the right leg is extending and pushing off the ground as the left knee is bending downward. And that's when you see, maybe the next golf magazine of some sort talk about using the ground as pressure, this is exactly how you try to demonstrate it. So, I try to challenge people to try to do this in a mirror and take note of where that pressure is on the ground.
So definitely trying to push off the ground more with their right foot because their right side is more extending.
Correct, yeah. It's really, really important that you get some extension in the backswing, especially if you're limited in your ability to turn your shoulders far enough.
I'm going to show this with Dana, kind of doing the same thing here.
Is this the right one? Yeah. Yeah, so you can see kind of the hips are trying to flatten out, and then my arms are staying in front of me. So that was really tough to do because I really wanted to try to gain an extension in my right hip. So, but for here you can definitely see how this right hip is moved by, if you put a line right off my right heel and draw it straight up 90 degrees somewhat. There you go. Okay, and then do it on the other picture. So you can see where my hip is. So you see more of my right hip. This is more or less just turning my hips on the left than it is on the right. So you can see how the difference where the butt end of the club at the top on the picture on the left is not back far enough. But you look at the picture on the right, the handle is more back behind the right shoulder. So this is real important as far as power. If your hands don't go back far enough on an arc, you have less time to get the club to the ball, essentially. It's probably the easiest way to think about it. But you can see that a lot of that's just controlled by the hips. Therefore, I don't have enough shoulder turn. If you want to add to that, you may.
Yeah. Just in terms of talking about the importance of the hips is sometimes you can get some players that might need a quote unquote steeper shoulder turn, and they'll work on it with the shoulders. And what the issue with that can be is they start to bob their head around, not understanding the importance that the hip inclination is kind of what's controlling it. Just feeling either the right shoulder go up or the left shoulder down could cause some problems with the head moving around too much.
Correct. Okay, very nice. All right, now I think we're going to look at some examples of some players.
Okay.
All right, so here we have two different tour players, and we're not picking on these guys at all. They're obviously the best in the business. Now, I've always been a huge fan of Nick Faldo and his setup. Okay, especially in his setup, because frame-wise, I tried to model a lot of what he does in his setup after for a lot of my students because he was really good. So really quickly here, we can see with Faldo that his hands hang away from his shoulders, his neck tilt is down, and his pelvis is pointing downwards towards the ball. Okay, and I think Nick is about 6'2", 6'3", so you see his knees are basically over his toe line, and so all these positions are awesome, absolutely awesome. Now, as he goes into his backswing, okay, and I think it's one of the better swings that he does. It's very orthodox. Now, his shaft gets a little steep, kind of loads steeply there, but you can really see at the top end of his backstroke how his hips look steep, right, and his right leg has lost flex. So we're just going to put a line there somewhere.
So it would have been like right here.
Yeah. So that's huge.
And it moves a little bit, but
yeah. I mean, but this is one of the all-time great players, and you can see that that's exactly what he does into his backswing. Okay, and then we have KJ Choi over here, and we had a really tough time finding professional level players that don't do what we're saying to do. But KJ, being he's a fade player and very strong, you can see the difference between him and Nick with how his arms are loading. That's probably one of the first things you'll notice. But you also notice the difference in his leg flex. So there's very little space between the knees that KJ has between his right leg and his left leg, and KJ's hips are way more level. So yes, like that. And his shoulder turn is way more level. So there's a huge indication between the difference between the shoulders and the hips and how they turn on a tilted angle and how the arms are loading. And that's kind of our point. If we drew a line straight down from the button to the club, kind of on the description that we gave before, you'll see that because of the lack of hip extension and rotation and tilt, the way the arms are shaping and loading is going to be different. And you can see the difference where the button and the club goes. Okay? So, you know, that's really the major thing that I see, you know, in these players.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's really hard to find, you know, a tour player that didn't have some of these elements. You know, even though they say they're trying to do what KJ does, none of them do it. Especially guys like Dustin Johnson and Bubba Watson. Dustin Johnson really overstraightens his right leg more than probably what's prescribed, you know, and really gets a lot of hip tilt. That's why he's one of the longer hitters.
I really like that picture of Faldo.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
really
awesome.
Good.
You know, and hopefully he sees this on YouTube and he goes, "Oh, okay, you know, I'm really good," because he is really good. Okay. Anything you want to add there?
I want to emphasize the importance of the hips, how the hip slants how affect the shoulders, and how important those are. Also, how it affects the loading of the arms on the backswing. So, you know, some players might see this picture of KJ and be like, "Oh, that's laid off." Well, if he was to maybe lose more flex in his right knee, get his hips a little bit steeper, you might see that that alignment change. So it's not always necessarily wrist angles or rotation of the forearms. It can just be something that's happening with the pivot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So thank you guys for watching.